So once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us for our Primary Sources and Teaching Online webinar series. Again, it's brought to you by the Teaching with Primary Sources Western Region in partnership with the TPS Teachers Network. And back to you, William, for the second part of our presentation tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So with the second part of getting personal and non-personal spaces, what we're going to be looking at are just some different ways in which we can model for students as well as engage students in building these social and emotional wellnesses at a time as strange as the ones that we are currently living in. So we started off with the idea of a Zen PowerPoint and slide presentation. These Zen PowerPoints using single or double images to be able to tell a story, challenging the presenter to be able to know enough about the image and know enough about the content that they're speaking on that they can balance it and make it all work and make it all seem very seamless. I think for our students, as they're working in digital spaces, this is a really, really awesome opportunity for them to be able to share themselves with their peers and with you, their instructors, in a semi-low stakes way. So for example, asking students to do a 2 or 3 slide Zen PowerPoint of the things that are most important to them, or some of the things that are important to them at their house. And let me model what I'm asking. This is my little pup, Nefertiti. She is 2 years old and she is just absolutely great. This was us on a football Sunday and she is in her Patriots jersey. Please don't judge me or log off because I'm a Patriots fan. My dad was raised in Boston, and me and grandpa are holding out we're still Pats fans. But I was never a dog person. And 2 years ago for my birthday, my wife surprised me with Nefertiti as a puppy. And I went from thinking that people who have dog pictures on their phone and on their computers were weird to being just totally obsessed with my dog. As you can see, she has a jersey, and you best believe she is often on my phone and the background on my computer. So that was something that has just radically changed my whole life. Now, granted, I do have a wife, I do have a child. Both of those people are so important in my life. I chose Nefertiti to put on here just because I think she represents the transformation that was taking place in me as I moved into this different chapter in my life, and going from being a person who thought one way to thinking a completely different way. And that picture and her cute little self definitely represents that. Asking our students to be able to do a quick presentation like that is manageable. I think it's low-hanging fruit for us to be able to, in our Google Classrooms or some of the other various platforms that we have to do this work, to set up an assignment that says, hey, give us one picture, narrate why this picture is so important to you, and load it up for all of us to be able to see. I like the idea of students being able to type out their explanation for their pictures being able to just do a voice or over or a live video explanation of it. The reason why is if you can write or discuss it, I think it opens it up for students at all different academic abilities. I think one of the things that that might be getting lost in the wash of this sudden and rapid movement to online platforms for school is some of our special needs students and some of our students whose abilities we were helping to support with the different scaffolds and different work that we do within our classrooms, that they might not be able to have access to at home. So if a student struggles with reading and writing, allowing them to be able to talk and just do video explanations of text offers, it kind of levels the playing field for them. I think this is a practice, and having students do videos and voiceovers is something that even if we're not doing remote learning, just in general, I think is an amazing practice in order to make to give students equitable access to work. This next one is our video journals. If we haven't forgotten, in these last 35 minutes or so, 40 minutes or so, we are currently dealing with a global pandemic. And I think we would be remiss, and I think really disingenuous, if we didn't take time out to acknowledge what that means. As an adult, it's really hard for me to deal with. Like, I'm still very much wrapping my head around what it means to like have to self-quarantine myself. And I'm very blessed. I have a house with my wife, and the heat's on, and Nefertiti's running around. My son has all the food he needs. We have all the toilet paper we'll need. And we're not hoarding toilet paper. I don't want to be one of that. But and I still can't deal with it. I still wake up and I think I live in a world that everything's as usual, business as usual. And then in a second and a half or so goes by, and I realize that things are very different. Things are very different, and they might not ever be the same. And as a 36-year-old man who considers himself something like educated and something like professional, if that's hard for me to deal with, I can't imagine what it's like dealing with it for a kid. Like, I don't know what the 17-year-old me would do. I don't know how I would handle it. I don't know how I would feel about it. And I can't imagine being in a household that doesn't have all the love and privilege that exists in the household that I'm in. I know I have students that were facing homelessness. I don't know how they're dealing with that. And that's tough. And I want to be able to provide them with the space to be able to articulate their truth, to be able to show who, how, and what they are, and who and how and what they're going through in this difficult time. And I think these video journals are a good way. This actually should be a link that worked during the practice, but what it is a link to a news story for students out of Chicago, from Chicago to South Africa to students all over the country, doing video journals of their life during this quarantine. And the student who is currently on the screen resides in the South Side of Chicago, and his experience, let's see if we can get it going. His experience, we can watch it.
If you have hearing loss, you can still enjoy the convenience of your cell phone with a cell phone amplifier, free to all qualified Illinois residents from iTech. Secure, easy, free. Stay connected on the go. Learn more about this free program at itechtti.org.
Hey, William.
Yes.
While Americans are
Sorry to interrupt real quick, but your the video isn't showing on the screen. You might have to go to share screen, and then there it is.
All right, sorry. Here we go.
Good.
While Americans are in a unique fight to stay healthy, a more common one is underway in Washington. Republicans and
This is not the right video. Sorry about that. I don't know.
money to provide. And
It's not the right video. Well, in these personal journals that students are doing, in the video journals that they're doing, they're just using their cell phones, using the technology that they have access to be able to show a day in their life. And for some of them, it's not so bad. It's very much they're at home with their brothers, with their sisters. Their biggest problem might be they're tired of being surrounded by their siblings and their parents, and they're getting a little cabin fever. All the way to other extremes where being stuck at home for students can be a very dreadful time and space for a lot of our students. I can speak to mine. I'm sure some of you tuning in have students that are similar. School was a place of escape for our students, and being able to leave some of the problems that they were having at home for 8 hours a day was a blessing. And with this quarantine and with being stuck at home, that is a luxury that they no longer afford. And by allowing our students to have the space to share what they're experiencing at home, I think helps us in multiple ways. One, it allows us as instructors to be able to have some empathy and understanding for what students are going through, for us to be able to say, oh, this might be why Joe Spocatelli isn't turning in his homework at the moment, because these are some of the things that he's dealing with. Oh, I know Lawan can't turn in her homework because these are some of the circumstances that she's going through. And I think it just allows us to really also just share and get this stuff off of our chest, because I know our students, and having talked to some of our students, my students, just feel really isolated at the moment. They feel like they're all alone. Like they don't get to hang out with their friends. They don't get to hang out with their teachers. They don't get to be able to escape some of the circumstances in which they live. And that's tough. It's really, really tough. The next way are digital happy hours. Digital happy hours can be a coffee or tea, water, juice happy hours, of course, with the students. Can be fun ways to be able to get your classmates, your students together, and just to share something as close to a classroom as we can get. Some of the different platforms that support that, the one I've had the greatest success with has been Google Hangouts. And in being able to convene a Google Hangout in which, students, as many of us who can come together and just talk shop, can just hang out, can just see how everybody's doing. Everybody has their video on. We can see each other and we can have some different conversations. Some of the different iterations of digital happy hours that I've seen and that I have planned for these coming weeks are kind of themed happy hour, digital happy hours. So it can be something as simple and as silly as like wear a goofy hat for our happy hour, and we'll vote who has the best hat, and that person gets to choose what the theme is for the next one. Or bring a book with you to your next digital happy hour, and let's talk about something that we're reading over time. Bring a song, bring a movie, bring whatever the case may be, and we can turn these digital platforms that we have and we have access to with students into something that we can use to interact. My students are high school students. My students mostly are all juniors and seniors, which means I think my youngest student might be 15 years old and my oldest is 20 years old. Being able to do a digital happy hour with them, I know looks very different than maybe being able to do it with a middle school and nevertheless an elementary school. I've never been one to try to speak on things that I don't know. So how to do that necessarily in the elementary and or middle school space, I probably would not be the best person, but I would love some resources for it to be able to pass along to some of my colleagues who do work with middle school and elementary school students, because I'm sure there is a way that we can model just bringing students together on a platform that is secured, that is safe, and that allows them to have some resemblance of us having a classroom, of us being able to share in that camaraderie that is often missing from the day-to-day school. Another really cool thing to be able to do in digital happy hours are how-tos. How-tos, which I think you can do with any grade level. And you can do them in classroom hangouts, or you can just have students post them. They're really fun in a way of showing the student, selecting a particular student or group of students to show how to do a particular thing. They make a video of it, they post the video of it, and after they post their video of it, the rest of the class attempts to do what they just showed them how to do, and then you come together at the end and everybody gets to share their experiences, whether this could be cooking a meal, this could be how to do origami, this could be how to do a new dance, this could be just any sort of way to be able to provide some sense of fun, some sense of normalcy, some sense of interaction amongst teachers and students to be able to support one another. The digital happy hours have also been great as supports for studies and getting students to really work with one another on being able to do the academic work that still has to be done. For example, for my civics course, I've taken my rosters, put them into small groups of 3, and those small groups of 3 have to come together and have coffee once a week for 30 minutes to an hour and report out what they discussed from the class, what they learned, what confusion they've cleared up, what questions they had answered, what questions they may have, and really pushing them to start to use these platforms in different ways, to use these platforms to work with one another collaboratively, as well as to support one another in finding better understanding of some of the material that they are working on. So the digital happy hours have been an amazing, amazing, amazing tool. And they're really fun. And again, I don't think any of this work is work that should be limited to just our students. I am a part of the instructional leadership team at my school, and today we had a digital lunch. And in our digital lunch, everybody shows up. We have our computers. We're doing the work that we need to, while also being able to see and share time with one another. Honestly, could that work have been done offline? Yes. I think our principal and our dean of instruction could have sent out a Google form or something like that to have us fill it out, answer all the questions, and we did not have to have a digital lunch today. But I tell you what, it felt so good just to be able to see those colleagues of mine, to be able to break bread with them from behind the computer screen, and just continue to shoot the shit and have fun and joke and laugh and to support one another. The teachers that I support as a coach, observer, and evaluator, we have weekly meetings, digital happy hour set up. Those are adults, and we can have us an adult beverage during our happy hour, and we do, and it's great. And we get a chance to plan, we get a chance to collaborate, we get to do all the things that we'd have normally done in school, but from the safeties of our home with a glass of wine and or scotch, and still get the work done, still have that camaraderie, still be able to share those laughs, which I think are just things I personally am not willing to let go of, just because the world around us right now is just so crazy. I think in all, the most important piece when it comes to providing students with opportunities for vulnerability in our digital spaces and for supporting their social and emotional needs during this time is by giving them choice, by making sure that the assignments that we're giving, by making sure that what our day-to-day and our week-to-week looks like has some sense of variety, has some sense of choice within it, I think gives us a huge advantage than just saying, hey, everybody's going to do this thing this way. I think for us in Denver, this is our first week back from spring break. And that means we have 90,000 students in Denver Public Schools trying remote learning for the first time on such a mass scale. We are very aware that we are not going to get things right out the gate. We are very aware that this week we're going to try to provide students with opportunities to do assignments that are relatively easy, that are relatively low stakes, in an effort just to see if we can get all the students on the platform, just to make sure all of our students have the technology that they need, just to see and make sure that everybody is understanding this move to this remote learning. So we're making space for the trial and error. And when I think about the assignments that I gave out this week, it was all about choice. It was about students being able to choose different aspects of their day that they want to share with the rest of the class. And they had to do an assignment called A Day in the Life. And in their Day in the Life assignment, they got to choose 5 different times throughout one single day to share a 30-second video of whatever it is that they were doing, as long as it was school appropriate. And it's just given us a window into students' lives. And it's giving them the choice of when and where they want to do that. As we continue to move forward, I think about the content and curriculum that we have planned. And I know me and my social studies team are making sure that we are giving students multiple entry points in how they're going to be able to not only access the information, but also be able to demonstrate mastery of it. In all the meanwhile, one of the foundational pieces of our social studies teams, we have dedicated to our students the video journaling. We want a video journal from our students every week, at least 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be any more than 5. We really think it's going to be just so important to be able to provide students with that space to be able to share how they're doing. And in their video journal assignment, which is reoccurring, they post it every Saturday. They will post it every Saturday. They can talk about, like I said, anything from the work that was assigned that week to just how the hell they're doing. And we want to be able to leave that space open for them. And again, all 3 of us are modeling that exact same thing. My video will be the first one that's posted up in our Google Classroom of my journal for the week, saying, yo, first week of remote learning, first week of having to deal with school during a pandemic, first week of whatever the case may be, they're going to hear it from me first so that they can see what the expectation is, as well as that I'm just a human trying to figure out this whole thing that we're all working on too. So I really hope that this provided everybody with some insight, with some thoughts. I would love to field any questions that you may have about this work. Please feel free to put them in the chat. Again, please also feel free to email me, to DM me via Twitter, to give me a call, shoot me a text message. I truly appreciate your time. I appreciate you having this dedication to the work, and I just hope our time today was beneficial. Thank you so much.
And thanks, William. I was just going over the chat here, and not so many questions, but a lot of sharing of resources and melding kind of what you're talking about with using things like Google Meet to do your happy hours, and talking about some strategies using Kahoots and Flipgrid to do some of the social aspects at the beginning of the day in lieu of taking like a role or something, having them interact with that. I'm just kind of paraphrasing a bit here. Using Quizlet, using somebody said they really liked your idea, your Zen PowerPoint idea, and pairing that with Snapchat assignment of some kind. So taking a Snapchat and using it to make a presentation of some kind.
Very much so.
Let's see what else is coming up here. Mary Johnson wanted to point out that students may not even realize when they're making their journals that they're creating primary sources, which is a nice tie-in to the work we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, these are going to be valuable resources. I guess I should mention History Colorado, and I don't have the link, maybe Kyle can dig it up, is doing a project where they're collecting people's experiences around this COVID-19 pandemic, I guess at this point. And so that might be an interesting way to tie some of these journals that you have your students, and others will have their students, and to collect them if they're here in Colorado. I know we have people from all over the country, but I'm sure there's other projects around collecting this information to warehouse it. I'm sure the Library of Congress eventually will gather this in some fashion as history drags on.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. Now that you mention it, just thinking about the fact that students truly are, I mean, those digital journals are again replacing like the journals of old.
Yeah.
And, you will at some point, man, become these primary sources to be able to look back on and be able to discuss this strange time we're living in.
I think it's important because digital stuff seems to be so ephemeral, it just goes away, but preserving it during these historic times is kind of important, and stressing that upon everyone, even though they may not think what their experiences are important or anything different, that these are important stories to hold on to and save and share. So yeah, it's a great thing to allow them to kind of have their story be part of history.
Very much so.
Yeah, people in the chat room found it. It's where was it? Yeah, historycolorado.org/COVID-19. It's in the chat room. Michelle posted it up there. And yeah, we'll make sure that's available. So if there's any other questions, we have a couple minutes yet before the top of the hour. Michelle wanted to point out that History Colorado staff is willing to collaborate. Yeah, in our meeting, we had a meeting with some of the people from History Colorado earlier today, and they're all working from home too, so they need stuff to do. So they're helpful.
Yeah, I would love to work with History Colorado on a piece, and with us being in Colorado and our students creating these primary source documents, I would love to see what we can collaborate and do.
All right, you've been challenged. You've all been challenged.
Can I make a comment in that regard?
Yes, go ahead, Michelle.
So the program, William, is being done with the Museum of Memory project there. And I reached out because we have a little over 450 kids that are digitally journaling during this time period. And Maria, who's heading up the project, is absolutely rock star. She's really willing to work with anybody in how you imagine the project to be, along some of the questions that they're asking and that type of thing. They are flexible, they're engaging. Maria's just lovely with it, and History Colorado is just really looking to tell the stories of our communities. And we had approached them looking for the ability to bring the youth voice as a stakeholder to this conversation. I really encourage any of you guys to reach out, and they are absolutely willing to do that very simply. And I'll give the information to the TPS gang. If you guys are interested, please be in touch with them and they can pass it on. But it's wonderful. You can just contact Curator at History Colorado, which is on the page that's in the link in the Zoom, and they'll get right back to you. And it's pretty amazing. So I encourage you to do it.
All right.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, we have a lot of people. And if you're not in Colorado, reach out to your local county, state historical organizations. I'm sure they're also busily doing it. Just being in conversations with people from all over. The historians are aware that this is a historical event, and they're actively collecting information and doing the historian and the historian and curation thing that they love to do. So, so yeah, check it out. It's a great way for your students and yourself to kind of share your story and record this part of history. There was also a question about topics for next week. So literacy on Tuesday, tech tools and primary sources on Wednesday, and historical conflict on Thursday. We will be putting out our email digest probably Monday, maybe tomorrow, depends on how things are going for us. Everything is always in flux right now. But those are going to be our topics. Another slate of amazing teachers like we had this week, including teachers and educators, including William today. I think, yeah, there's some other just information about some of the other people are making connections to this. Just checking if there's any other questions. I think that's pretty much it. We'll leave this open for just a little bit in case other comments come up, but I just wanted to give a couple of thanks, starting off with thanking William Anderson for sharing some really important information about being vulnerable and taking care to pay attention to the social and emotional needs of ourselves and our students during this stressful time. Also like to thank Kyle and Crystal, who have been hanging out in the chat room and being invaluable, helping answer questions and pass along information and look up stuff for us as we go. Also like to thank the Library of Congress for making this webinar series possible through the TPS program and the grant funding we get from the Library of Congress. And once again, just want to remind you, if you want a certificate, that link is up on the screen there, bit.ly/PS Teaching Online. Go there, fill out the quick little survey, some reflection and some contact information, and we'll get that out to you very quickly, hopefully. Also like to remind you that these are being recorded. We'll share these recordings and the Zen presentation that we had tonight up on our YouTube channel, and also let you know that we do have that up on the TPS Teachers Network. Kyle shared the link of that in the chat, so you can scroll back and grab that. But we'll also share that out through our newsletters and stuff now that we've kind of got that all figured out and put together. Those are all the previous ones are now up and available, so you can start checking those out. And I think that's it for tonight. I just wanted to double check to make sure we didn't have any other questions. Yeah, just some other resources have come up. But thanks, William.
Much. I appreciate it.
We'll be in touch with you and continue this conversation. And otherwise, thanks for your time, everyone. And have a good Friday and a good weekend. And hopefully we'll see you next week.